Hey everyone, I'm Sylvia. I'm 18 years old. My life was going great until suddenly it all turned upside down. Love, drama, revenge, betrayal, happiness, and a miracle. My story has it all. Okay, I'm going to dive right into it. I have so much fascinating stuff to tell you about. 2 years ago, we found out that my brother Kevin had leukemia, which is cancer of the blood. At first, we were devastated, but we quickly composed ourselves and decided to fight the disease together as a family. While my parents were focused on his treatment, I was busy making sure his spirits were high. I decided to spend all my time with him until he recovered. We began his treatment right away. Thankfully, he was diagnosed early, so his chances of recovery were high. But he was going to have to go through chemotherapy, which has really serious side effects. First came the nausea, so he lost his appetite and started losing weight really quickly. Soon after that, he lost all of his hair. He was going through a really tough time, and there was nothing I could do for him. It was 11 months into his treatment. One day, Kevin's doctor wanted to speak with us. The cancer is advancing despite the chemo. We need to start a new treatment, he said. Kevin needed a stem cell transplant. We needed a donor that matched Kevin's bone marrow. There is a 20 to 25% chance for siblings to be a match. They were going to get samples from my parents too, but they were less likely to be a match. So I was our biggest hope. I prayed all night that I would turn out to be a match. The next morning, we went to the hospital to get the tests done. They took 3 units of blood from me, my mom, and my dad. The results were going to come in a week, which meant that I'd have a whole week to pray for it. The next week, the doctor called us to the hospital and gave us the bad news. It turned out that none of us was a match. We were devastated once again. As the doctor was speaking, I noticed the results on his desk. I looked at them and found an unbelievable mistake. I got so excited and showed the doctor right away. There is a mistake here. This isn't my result. Look, both my parents' blood type is O positive. But it says that mine is AB negative. This is impossible. If both parents' blood is type O, then the child's blood has to be type O as well. This means this report isn't mine. The doctor looked away. I was so confused. I turned to my dad. Dad, we studied this in biology class. This result can't be mine. I could still be a match for Kevin, I insisted. But the doctor interrupted me. Sylvia, the results are correct. Kevin's blood type is O positive, as it should be. But yours? He couldn't finish his sentence. Because of this weird coincide, we found out that I wasn't my parents' biological daughter. They were as shocked as I was. The whole week, we all couldn't wait to get the results of the test, which means that they also thought that I was their biological daughter. This left us with only one possibility. The day I was born, someone had made a huge mistake and I was switched with another baby. My parents' child grew up with another family, and they thought I was their daughter, but they brought up someone else's baby. The blood type was pretty definitive, but we still did a DNA test. That confirmed it, but I couldn't care less about my own situation. I was just so worried about my brother. I wished I were his biological sister so that I could have saved his life. My parents wanted to talk to me that night. My mom said, "We love you so much. You are our daughter no matter what. But we want to investigate this further, because if we manage to find Kevin's biological sister, she might be a match." They were right. I love you so much too, and I'm prepared to do anything for Kevin to get better, I said. We were really lucky because it turned out there were only 5 other babies born in the same hospital that day. 3 of them were boys and 2 were girls. Since I was one of the 2 girls, then the other had to be my parents' real daughter. We got the other family's address. I got really nervous on our way there. I hadn't thought about it until that moment, but I was about to meet my real parents. I might even have to live with them in the future. Even though they are my real parents, the idea of living with people I don't know was too scary for me. We got to the address and saw an old, dilapidated building. As my dad rang the doorbell, my legs were shaking because I was so nervous. I held onto the wall so that I wouldn't fall. Nobody answered, so we knocked on the neighbor's door. An old woman answered. We told her who we were looking for. She had financial problems after her husband died, So she and her daughter had to move in with her mother, she said. Her mother lived in another part of the country, but we were determined to get there somehow. We learned that my biological mother was a cleaner at a real estate agency. The company gave us her phone number. We sat down at a cafe and my dad called her. He told her who he was and described the situation. He added, "It's not right to talk about this on the phone. Could we meet in person? We can all come to visit you." He was in tears as he hung up. "She's expecting us tomorrow." She sounded really sad. "Sylvia, we need to hold the hospital accountable for what they're putting us through," he said. When we got home, Mom said, "You'll go with your dad. I need to stay with Kevin." The next morning, we got on the first flight to their city. We were sure that this time the door was going to be answered, and it was. My biological mother and I looked so much alike that it felt like I was looking in the mirror and seeing myself 20 to 25 years later. We both started crying at the same time. She hugged me and started kissing me. I do the same thing, hug and kiss, so now I know where that comes from. We went inside. My dad was so nervous he kept looking around. He and my real mom and I looked at each other. "Isn't your daughter home?" he asked. "She is, but she is very anxious. She doesn't know what to do." "Let me go see if she wants to come out," she said. She came back with her daughter a few minutes later. I'll never forget the shocked expression on my dad's face. He was spellbound. My dad had lost his mom at a very young age. Apparently his real daughter looked a lot like his mom. He hugged her and started crying. Then he called me over and hugged both of us. We all started sobbing. I suddenly had a sister now. Her name was Jenny. When she smiled, she had dimples just like my mom, meaning her biological mother. The next day, we came back home with my new sister. My mom got so excited when she saw Jenny. She even fainted for a moment. But it was all good afterwards. We had the first happy night at home since Kevin's illness. The next day, we took Jenny to the hospital. She had her blood tested to see if she was a match for Kevin. We had to wait a week again. Jenny and I had so much in common that we barely noticed that a week went by. The big day finally came. We were supposed to go to the hospital the next morning. This could be Kevin's last chance, so we were all very anxious. Jenny's face broke out in pimples because of the stress. My dad's phone rang around 9 that night. It was Kevin's doctor. He had the results and didn't want us to wait until the morning. Jenny was a match. We were all so happy, but I think Jenny was the happiest. After 17 years, she found out she had a brother, and now she was going to save his life. No time was wasted to start the stem cell treatment. First, they got the cells from Jenny with a simple procedure. After a week of preparations, the cells were transferred to Kevin. We had to wait for 20 days to see how Kevin's immune system would respond. Thankfully, he didn't have any issues. Everything had gone as it should have. Kevin is doing much better now. He only needs to get checked once in a while. Our terrible days are behind us, thanks to Jenny. Even though my biological mother was really sad, she let Jenny move in with us. We talk on the phone all the time. She always asks a ton of questions about me. She's going to visit us next month. Jenny and I are planning to stay with her for a while in the summer. My dad got a lawyer to represent both of my moms in a lawsuit against the hospital. At the end, the hospital agreed to pay a large compensation to both of them to settle the lawsuit. This solved my biological mom's financial problems. My mom decided to use the money for the university tuition of her 3 kids. I said earlier that the story involved love and revenge as well. I left the best for last. Are you ready? It was not an accident that Jenny and I got switched. Yes, you heard right. It was on purpose. It was a nurse who did this to us. The prosecutor found it really weird that there was a mix-up, even though there were only 2 girls born that day. So they questioned the 2 nurses at the delivery room and got to the bottom of it. One of the nurses had dated my biological father years earlier. One night, she was drunk and cheated on my dad. When he found out, he left her. But she was still in love with him. She tried to patch things up, but he wasn't interested. She was surprised to see my dad at the hospital years later. So she made up this evil revenge plan to get back at him. Well, you know the rest of the story. She switched my dad's biological child, which is me, with another baby, which is Jenny. She stood trial after she confessed to this terrible thing and was given 11 years in prison. She changed the lives of 6 people, and that's if we only count the parents and the kids. So I think this is a lenient sentence. And don't think that this stuff only happens in movies. If you like stories like this, subscribe to this channel. Bye.
Hi guys, I'm Tiffany. I didn't have any allergies until I was 16. But last year, I developed an illness called cold urticaria, or cold allergy. When I say cold, I don't just mean cold weather during winter. I'm allergic to all types of cold, including ice cream. I even have to sleep while wearing socks on hot summer nights. I'm pretty sure you'll be shocked to hear of all the things I've been through. My dad has been working for the same company for 12 years. He'd been in the same position for years, so he wasn't happy. Last summer, he finally got the promotion he'd been waiting for. He decided to take us to a beach resort to celebrate. We hadn't been on a beach holiday for a long time, so we were really excited. We got on the road early on a Saturday. It was really hot, so we had the car's AC on the whole way. When we got to the resort, I noticed there were red spots all over my body. They were itchy, too. I didn't care because I was in such a good mood. We didn't know it back then, but it was because of the AC. We came down to the lobby after leaving our stuff in the room. My dad said he had to send a few emails for work. My mom and I went to the seaside. The beach was absolutely amazing. There was a pier that stretched out into the sea. Everyone was diving into the sea from it. After sunbathing for a while, I wanted to go for a swim. My mom said, "I'm going to stay here a little longer. You go ahead. I'll catch up later." I was happy because that meant I could dive from the pier. My mom would have never allowed it. I did it just as I had imagined. I ran down the pier and then made a perfect dive. In the water, I felt like 1,000 needles were prickling my skin. I didn't understand what was happening. So I thought, did my feet touch a sea urchin? I had to come back up to the surface. I realized it wasn't just my feet, but my whole body that was in pain. I said to myself, I must have touched some jellyfish. They sting like this. I didn't see any jellyfish around, but I couldn't think of any other reason. I no longer felt good, so I came out of the water. When my mom saw me, she jumped in panic. "Tiffany, what happened to you?" I didn't realize that my entire body, including my face, was covered in red blisters. Everything was itchy, too. When I said, "I got stung by a jellyfish, it really hurts," my mom said, "Let's go to the room and put some lotion on." I didn't want to, but I said okay. We later learned that my body had an allergic reaction to the cold water. At the time, we didn't know that one could be allergic to the cold, so we didn't imagine that that was the reason. I keep saying allergy, but many of you might not know what this illness is really about. Don't bother Googling it, I'll tell you what it is. Allergy means the immune system has extreme sensitivity to something, but this is, in fact, a false alarm. The immune system isn't supposed to react, yet it activates its defense mechanisms unnecessarily for unknown reasons. Allergy is a widespread illness. Some people are allergic to dust, others to peanuts. Some people's immune systems react to cat fur, while others to bee stings. I am allergic to the cold. My immune system activates its defenses and starts giving a variety of reactions when faced with cold. These reactions are usually redness, itchiness, swelling, and blisters on the skin. It would be fine if it stopped there. However, it can be really dangerous too. And unfortunately, I had a very bad experience. It was a week after the resort incident. I met up with my friend Leah. She had wanted to get a tattoo for a long time. We visited all the tattoo parlors around, but she wasn't happy with any of them. We were sweaty from the heat, so we stopped by an ice cream shop on our way. They had the AC on, so it was cool inside. We decided to eat the ice cream inside and got a table. After we got our ice cream, we were chatting and eating at the same time. After a short time, I felt a tingling and then an intense burning in my throat. I stopped and tried to understand what was happening. Leah realized that something was up. "Tiffany, are you okay?" she asked. All of a sudden, I wasn't able to breathe. I felt like there was something in my throat and it was blocking the air from coming in. I held my neck with both hands. I opened my mouth really wide to breathe, but no oxygen was passing through. The last thing I remember before I passed out was Leah screaming, "Something happened to my friend! Please call an ambulance! Please hurry!" I was at the hospital when I opened my eyes. My mom, my dad, Leah, and a doctor were there. Everybody was happy to see that I was recovering. "What happened to me?" I asked. The doctor smiled. "You said you couldn't breathe, but everything looks normal. I think you had a panic attack, so the reasons for this must be psychological. Get some rest. You'll be fine tomorrow," he said. My parents and I weren't satisfied with the panic attack explanation. On our way home, we decided to visit another doctor to get a second opinion. We went to a really famous doctor. He did a comprehensive examination. He listened to me carefully as I told him what happened. Finally, he said, "I don't think this is a panic attack." He did a bunch of tests afterwards, but he wasn't able to give a diagnosis because all the test results came back normal. One day, when I was at the supermarket with my mom, she said, "Can you get some frozen peas? I'll grab some milk and eggs. I'll meet you by the cashier." I went to the frozen food aisle. I opened the huge fridge. It was really cold. I looked for peas for like 15 to 20 seconds. I grabbed a pack once I found them. Then I closed the door of the fridge. That's when I started itching. I had red spots all over my arms. I took out my phone and looked at my face. It was also covered in red spots. I realized what was happening. I ran to my mom. She was shocked to see me that way. I teared up and said, "Mom, my problem is the cold. Cold stuff does this to me," and started crying. Yes, I had diagnosed myself. We immediately went to a dermatologist. He agreed with me when he heard my story. This is called cold urticaria. It's also known as cold allergy. It's very rare. I've only seen 3 cases so far. You're the 4th. But I need to do a test to make a definite diagnosis, he said. The doctor gave a small ice cube to my mom and said, "Put this on Tiffany's arm for a few seconds." My mom did as the doctor said. It felt prickly where she put the ice. Ice does normally hurt, but this was really painful. Afterwards, my arm swelled up and had red spots. It was itching really badly, too. The doctor said, "You can remove the ice. Unfortunately, this is the worst case of cold allergy I've seen so far." So it was official that I had a cold allergy. Honestly, the diagnosis didn't make much of a difference in my life, because there is only one cure for this allergy: staying away from cold weather and cold things. You can take allergy medicine, but like with most allergies, it's not very effective. You know that I had problems during the summer, so imagine how it would be in winter. Last winter was so difficult. My mom drove me to and from school. She would heat up the car before I came out of the house. I spent very little time outside, but I still had to wear really thick clothes. I looked like an astronaut. I had a hat that covered my whole face, a really tight scarf, a really long jacket that was filled with goose feathers, thermal tights, a really thick pair of pants, and thermal gloves that you'd usually wear when skiing. Even with all these precautions, I still had 3 or 4 incidents throughout the season. One of them was actually really funny. Guess where the allergy got me? In the bathroom! The toilet seat was cold. I sat on it in the morning without checking. The result was a disaster. My backside was completely red. Thankfully, I didn't get blisters, but I couldn't go to school because of the itching. Will I be like this for the rest of my life? Thankfully, no. This allergy is usually seen in women between the ages of 15 and 30. It usually lasts 5 to 10 years and then disappears. So one day you wake up with a cold allergy. You live with this condition that affects your whole life for years. And then, just like that, it disappears. It's really weird. You can get more information about this allergy if you search on Google. If you think that you might have the allergy, you can do the ice test. But the best thing is to see a doctor. The illness doesn't have a cure, but it requires the support of an expert. Thanks for listening to me. If you like stories like this, I suggest you subscribe to the channel. Bye!